on Special Interests with Bob and Donna Durasmo and Robert Banfelder. Robert is going to share with you his writing guide, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about him. He is an award-winning crime thriller novelist and outdoors writer, and he is a member of various clubs and organizations, including the New York State Outdoor Writers Association, the Outdoor Writers Association of America, and we are both members of the Trumansburg Fish and Game Club, which is in central New York. A great club.
It is, absolutely.
He is also the recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award for his fiction and nonfiction from the Marquee Publication Board of Who's Who in America. So he's got a lot of credentials. But I think that you ought to know that Bob spent approximately 13 years teaching college English, and he was touted as a gifted teacher. And he is. He loves to learn, and he loves to share his knowledge with everyone who is interested. And those of you who are interested in writing, today is a treat for you. Bob is going to talk about his book, which is titled The Essential Guide to Writing Well and Getting Published, which has a bonus feature of making decent dollars writing, plus little-known reward-reaping benefits from your writing. So I'm going to leave it to Bob. And
Okay, thank you for that introduction, Donna. This book was published, this came out in 2017, The Essential Guide to Writing Well and Getting Published. Donna went over my credentials. I'll just add to that, which will lend a little bit of support to some presumptuous statements I'll make. I have a BA and an MA with honors. My genre, BA, MA of the arts, with my genre in creative writing for the Master of Arts. I'm a graduate, actually we're both graduates of Queens College, and I taught I found a niche at Queensborough Community College for those 13 years, almost 13 years that Donna spoke about. I taught a couple courses over at Queens College also, but I found a home at Queensborough Community College. I have written 9 novels to date, and I've written 4 nonfiction books, and this is one of them. The presumptuous statement that I'm going to make is that this is one of, if not the best book out there today on writing well. A guide to writing well and getting published. And whereas my novels took me 2-3 years to write, which anyone writing at my pace would have taken them maybe 5 or 6 years, because I would go around the clock sometimes. I would at least put in a 15, 16, 20-hour day, sometimes around the clock, literally, because I was afraid to lose it. I was afraid to miss a beat. And it was just my being anal, whatever. Anyways, 2-3 years per novel. The bigger ones, say 3 years, small say 2 years. This book took me 30 years, 31 years to put together, because when I was learning, and I'm talking about high school and college, I saw that there were so many problems, especially when it came to teaching grammar. Grammar is, let's be honest folks, grammar is boring. It is. And there's a lot of rules to follow, and it can really pull you down. The magic of this book is that over these 31 years, let's say, of putting this together, I took the best of the best lessons that I learned from textbooks such as The Random House Guide to Writing. You'll see this is a beat up copy. This is the 3rd edition. It's beat up because I went through this and I taught myself quite a bit. When I got into college, I wound up contributing to this book. I received a stipend, and Random House Guide to Writing is very, very decent, but still you can get bogged down in a lot of the lessons that you'll see here. You will not get bogged. These are 12. The magic is that they're color-coded. And I'll hold this up again. You'll see the red, the blue, the greens. There's a reason for this. In these 12 lessons, which is comprised of, let's see,
How many pages?
that's what I want to look at here, about 148 pages. You work at your own pace. You take a lesson, lesson 1, and you digest it. Go on to lesson 2. By the time you get to lesson 4, let's say, if you're missing a beat, say, geez, I don't remember that lesson that Bob gave me on alliteration or personification or assonance. And for those of you who know the meanings of those words, maybe you have an example. I give you thorough examples. When you get through with my examples, you will know and it will stay with you. And that's kind of the magic to the book too. You will remember your lessons. And for those of us who remember about 60% of what we retain, and as the years go by, maybe 50 and 40 and 30, you simply refer back to this. This will be your reference. But I promise you, if you digest a lesson at a time, by the time you're through with this book, you will be on your way to writing well. And if you so desire, you will be on your way to getting published. And I mean that, and there will be proof in the pudding here in a moment or so. So this book, I'm going to read from the back jacket here, what it features literary tools, tricks of the trade, just like a carpenter has his or her toolbox filled with tools. You will be well versed in the tools, if you will, the tricks of the trade of a writer. And just to touch on it, again, we will deal with metaphors, similes, analogies, personification, alliteration, assonance, consonants, and it will be fun. It will not be boring for you. When we come to the grammar, I did say that grammar can be boring. I make those boring grammar lessons palatable. This book, here's another presumptuous statement, this book belongs in every high school and every college. It's a way of learning these lessons, very clearly and very thoroughly.
Okay, so, what else is in the book besides the...
Okay. Grammar covered in an unintimidated manner, and this color coding is the magic. I haven't seen a book, and I keep looking for other books. I haven't seen a book out there like this. Common pitfalls to avoid, organizing paragraphs, freelancing articles. When you get done with this book, I suggest that you tackle an article, send it out there. Send it out there to a magazine, a newspaper that pays. You will be paid and you will feel very proud of yourself. Writing your first novel. After you write a few articles, you may have the confidence to go on and write a novelette, a novella, a full-length novel, or backing up, a short story.
We all have stories to tell, don't we?
And finally, here the all-important query letter. knowing how to write a query letter, knowing how to reach, knowing how to seduce the publisher, the editor on the other end.
Or the
important.
agent, or the
Or
literary
the
agent, if
agent.
you care to write a novel. But everyday writing in your business, if you're a real estate agent, if you're a salesperson, if you're a police officer,
If you're a lawyer,
if you're a lawyer, if you're any profession, you're going to be expected to write something, and you really want to put your best foot forward. And this book is going to help you do that.
okay, so just to back up a little bit, we covered this in other segments of our show. My first 3 books, comprising a trilogy, Dickie Ritchie and I went on to write
Why don't you sit so you can see? So we can see. There you go.
The Signing, The Triumvirate. I just want to go through this quickly again to show that I write. I
That
write
he
novels. I write nonfiction, and here's one of them, of course. Don and I are into the fishing big time. I'm into the hunting. I have the Bullseye, the Smart Bow Hunter's Handbook, the North American Small and Big Game Hunting Handbook, the Fishing Smart Anywhere Handbook for Saltwater and Freshwater.
Nice books.
And I have a 4-book series. All the books can stand by themselves, or they could be read in this given order for more appreciation. The author, the teacher, Knots, the Good Samaritans, referred to as a tetralogy, a 4-book series, as opposed to the 3-book trilogy. This book stands by itself. I spent every day for 15 months in the Riverhead courts on trace evidence.
Trace evidence.
And if you're interested in these books, as I mentioned, Don and I have covered these novels in other segments. So by going on to
Our YouTube channel, which is Special Interests with Bob and Donna.
okay, so we talked about the magic of book, color-coded lessons. Now, what I do is to get you involved. I don't start off with those boring, often confusing grammar lessons. I start you off with what's in a name. Maybe you want to put together a short story. Maybe it's an assignment for school. Maybe you really have this in you where you want to write a story. Anywhere from a short story to a full-length novel. You can do this. You can do this. We'll be covering in this book about 6 important types of sentences. You learn how to construct these sentences and you can write volumes. And that's a promise. That's the truth. So, start you off with what's in a name. We go on to the art of writing fiction and nonfiction. Writing well. Development of a single sentence saying what you mean. The art of fiction. A mixed bag of tricks, complexities concerning characterization and plot. Then we come to the nitty-gritty here. Contextual, grammatical, and syntactical problems that plague writers. Part 1. In the following lesson, we continue with those grammar lessons in Part 2. Take it nice and slow. And if it's a little too much to digest, You put it down and you pick it up fresh, have a cup of coffee in the morning, start anew. If you feel confident, oh, I understand this now, I finally understand this, you'll continue. Books, book titles and cover designs, we're going to cover that in the book. Organizing paragraphs for article writing. Taking a spell, yes, that does have to do with spelling. Another another issue that plagues a lot of writers, but there are tricks to the trade, to that too. In truth, I am a terrible speller, and I tell that maybe the second day to a body of students, whether it be in a college or another classroom setting. I'm a terrible speller. I don't think it's a generalization to say that girls are better spellers than boys, men, women, something to do with that side of the brain or whatever. But I tell my students, you would never know that I'm a poor speller if I write something to you, like I hand out a handout and there's not a misspelling, not a comma out of place. Ray, the spelling, it's because I look up a word that I'm not sure of. Now, some of you may say, oh, well, my computer will tell me if I'm misspelling. Well, suppose you mean T-O-O, meaning also, and you wrote T-O or T-W-O. I think you know where I'm going with this, okay? The computer isn't going to home in on that. That's just an example here. So, what we're going to do, we're going to jump into a lesson. We're going to jump into lesson 4. And you're going to maybe miss a beat or 2 or 3, which I've covered in lessons 1, 2, and 3. But I'll touch on that, and I don't think it will take away from the power. So, lesson 4 is titled Writing Well, Development of a Single Sentence, Saying What You Mean. And when you see what goes into a well-developed sentence, I'm going to repeat this at the end, not every sentence has to be this way. This is a lesson to show you to think clearly. Say what you mean what you say. Let us take a single thought, the seed of a sentence, shaping and forming it into clear, concise language and imagery. Painting with pictures, painting pictures with words, if you will. Perhaps the sentence could serve as an introduction to one character, possibly 2. And we're going to deal with 2 in a moment. Let's rework the sentence better than a dozen times to make that sentence finally sing, and sing with clarity. Although this is not primarily a basic skills course, I will work in an important grammar lesson that needs to be addressed. Also, we will reinforce some of our earlier lessons concerning a treasure trove of tools, adding new ones to the collection. Here we go. Here's the very short sentence. Charlie was Karen's hero. Ask yourself why. Why was Charlie Karen's hero? Now hold that thought and let's continue building that sentence. Charlie was Karen's hero, raising chickens for feathers. Stop and ask yourself, who is raising chickens for feathers? Is it Charlie or is it Karen? In the phrase, Charlie was Karen's hero raising chickens for feathers, Karen has been placed nearer to the phrase raising chickens for their feathers than Charlie. Therefore, it seems as though Karen raises chickens for feathers, not Charlie. But that's not what I mean to say. nor do I mean to imply that those feathers are somehow shared between Charlie and Karen. I want Charlie, excuse me, I want Charlie as a character who raises chickens for feathers. The first of these often repeated grammar errors is referred to as a misplaced modifier. Now, don't get bogged down with
Terms. Yeah.
Misplaced. I kind of sneak this in, I work this in on, I give you lessons when you don't even realize what I'm doing. In this case, the misplaced modifier is simply the intended name that is not placed near enough to the phrase it is supposed to modify in order to make it clear that it is Charlie who is raising chickens for feathers, thereby resulting in confusion. Let's immediately clean up these types of problems by thinking carefully and rearranging words and or adding and subtracting other words in order to have the sentence say what I mean it to say. I'm going to change this a little bit now. Karen worshipped Charlie as her hero, raising chickens for feathers, not food. Perhaps I've now eliminated that ambiguity. Perhaps not. Or can their identities be made even clearer? In a moment we'll see, but for now it's fairly clear that Charlie is the one who is raising chickens for feathers. I have Charlie raising chickens and have decided to have Karen working in a slaughterhouse. Raising chickens for feathers, working in a slaughterhouse for the female character. Hence, I create a curious juxtaposition. Juxtaposition. Now, by the time you reach this multisyllabic word, you will know these terms, whether they're single syllables or multisyllabic. You will have this under your belt, what you will understand. But for the sake of clarity here, if I place two or more things side by side, for the sake of comparison or contrast, I have what we call a juxtaposition. So, back to this. Hence, I'll create a curious juxtaposition between my two characters. A slaughterhouse referencing the processing of food for consumer consumption, contrasting a kind of farm where chickens are raised for their feathers, not food. Let's build upon that imagery by employing alliteration. Remember, alliteration is stressed initial sounds. Now, you don't remember because you haven't read lessons 1, 2, or 3.
Or they may know.
Or they may know. And as an example, I use in a classroom, and I date myself here, I remember this phrase when my mother would send me off for a quart of milk and a loaf of bread. And I would virtually come back with Bond bread. That was the name of the bread. Do they still have Bond bread?
I don't know, but you're going to be dating yourself.
I already said that. I am dating myself. But here's why I came back with Bond bread. Here is the company's slogan. Better buy Bond bread because Bond bread builds better bodies. That stayed with me, stays with me to this day. There's your alliteration. What's being stressed? What is the initial letter here that's being stressed? B. Now that doesn't mean that you have to create this alliterative effect that you have to begin the initial letter with a consonant or a vowel. It could be something like this, and you tell me what the stressed initial sound is,
Okay.
and it's not going to be better ba be bang. Cold, old, bones lie on the bottom of the sea.
It's the O.
It's the O
It's the O
that's
sound.
being stressed.
You kind of gave that away
So-
with the emphasis, though.
Well, little help.
Little help.
A little help here. So, that is a literary tool. Students who learn this tend to overuse it initially, but that's okay. It's a learning process, and you will learn where to use it, how to use it, when to use it. It is powerful. It is a powerful tool. Okay, back to, we're going to strive for a little alliteration here. In a world, we're changing this now, in a world where Karen saw death every day, let's change the words every day and give the phrase some balance with W's and D's. In a world where Karen saw death daily instead of every day, we've created a nice alliterative effect there with world where death daily. Here we've used two pairs of consonant sounds. And what's a consonant? Anything that's not a vowel. A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. You remember that from school, right? D's, W's and D's for emphasis. World where death daily. In a world where Karen saw death daily, she worshipped Charlie as her hero, raising chickens for feathers, not food. Note the position of the pronoun she and the noun feathers, the latter of which belongs to those of the birds. Therefore, let's make that image perfectly clear. In a world where Karen saw death daily, she worshipped Charlie as her hero, raising chickens for the birds' feathers, not food. Now, a little bit in the abstract, but just picture this, I'll take it slow. The apostrophe after the word birds, after B-I-R-D-S, apostrophe, not apostrophe S, shows the plural possessive case. That is, the feathers belonging to more than just one bird. If we were talking about the feathers belonging to a single bird, which we are not, it would be written as the B-I-R-D apostrophe S, feathers. I just snuck in another grammar point, sneaky fellow that I am. So this is how I work through the book. I'll give you a lesson, I'll reinforce it later on, working it through another example, and you will immediately catch on to this. Next, I've suddenly decided on a name change because in my mind's eye, the character's new name will later serve as a significant metaphor, a symbol, if you will. And by this point in the book on page 39, the reader has digested all this business, understands metaphors, similes, analogies, personification, alliteration, consonants, all the things where I'm touching on here. Next, I've suddenly decided on a name change because in my mind's eye, the character's new name will later serve as a significant metaphor. A metaphor is an implied comparison. A simile is very specific. She is as pretty as a rose. She is like a rose. I'm using as or like to give you this, how should I say here, this direct comparison, whereas a metaphor takes a little bit more of brain power. And I'll give you an example of a classic metaphor. The ship plows through the sea. the ship plows through the sea. Okay, so what's being compared to what? I'm putting you on a spot here. You know a lot of this business.
I may have forgotten. You're comparing the boat to a plow.
Well, the ship, let's
The
be
ship.
more.
The ship to a plow, a farmer's plow.
Okay. That ship is plowing through the water as a plow, a literal plow would till the earth, plow through the earth with that kind of power. Even giving a little stress here on the P for plow, which we refer to here as a plosive. The ship plows through the sea. I don't know if I'm making enough noise here. The ship plows through the sea. You can feel that force, So, metaphors, similes, analogies, that's all covered by the time you reach lesson 4 here. Okay, now
So you're going to change Karen's name to Heather.
Next, I've suddenly decided on a name change because in my mind's eye, the character's new name will later serve as a significant metaphor. Thus, I've switched Karen to Heather. You'll see why later. In a world where Heather saw death daily, she worshipped Charlie as her hero, raising chickens for the birds' feathers, not food. Charlie works as a sort of a grower who raises birds, as one might grow pretty flowers. Let's smooth out the syntax. Another fancy word here. Syntax being the way we string our words together. Let's smooth out the syntax, meaning the way we string our words together in order to clean up any ambiguity, any confusion that might still exist. So here we go. In a world where Heather saw death daily, she worshipped Charlie as her hero. Watching him raise his chickens for the birds' feathers, not food. Heather, watching him, makes the image clearer. The pronoun him and his help clear up any possible confusion. Let's tack on a simile in order to expand the imagery. Remember, using as or like as 2 examples. We could use another one, but we'll just stay simple here. In a world where Heather saw death daily, she worshipped Charlie as her hero, watching him raise his chickens for the birds' feathers, not food, like a grower who raises pretty flowers. Concerning Charlie, let's paint an even clearer picture of the man in the mind of the reader. In a world where Heather saw death daily, she worshipped Charlie as her hero, watching the old man raise his chickens for the birds' feathers, not food, like a grower who raises pretty flowers. Let's do the same now for Heather. In a world where the attractive teenager saw death daily, Heather worshipped Charlie as her hero, watching the old man raise his chickens for the birds' feathers, not food, like a grower who raises pretty flowers. Now we're still going to belabor this seed of a sentence that is growing by leaps and bounds. And again, not every sentence has to be like this, but you're setting the stage. You want to set the stage with 1 or 2 important characters. You want it very clear in a reader's mind what they do, where they're coming from, what their philosophy is, if you will.
And what they look like, possibly.
And what they look like. Very good, Donna. Thank you. Repetitive words and forms thereof within a single sentence or paragraph, or even throughout a chapter, tend to weaken the writing. Stay away from repetitive words. Note, raise and raises found within this single sentence. In a world where the attractive teenager saw death daily, Heather worshipped Charlie as her hero, watching the old man raise his chickens for their feathers, not food like a grower who raises pretty flowers. We've got raise, we have raises. Let's select a better word choice referencing the second instance, that is the word raises. In a world where the attractive teenager saw death daily, Heather worshipped Charlie as her hero, watching the old man raise his chickens for their feathers, not food, like a grower who cultivates pretty flowers. Cultivate is a far better word choice in that the verb means to foster growth. To, T-O-O, meaning also pulls us away from repetitiveness. In a world where the attractive teenager saw death daily, Heather worshipped Charlie as her hero, watching the old man raise his chickens for the birds' feathers, not food, like a grower who cultivates pretty flowers. Now, let's see those feathers. We need a descriptive adjective. And don't worry about if you're a little confused about adjectives and adverbs and even nouns and pronouns and that business. By the time in 38 pages you'll have this under your belt. And of course many of you do have those under. This is for the beginner, the one in the middle, the one who's near the top and wants to climb higher. Although descriptive, did I cover this? Yeah, like to grow, cultivates pretty flower. Although descriptive, vibrant colored feathers is somewhat forced here and not entirely accurate, because the feathers are generally dun colored, D-U-N colored, that is a brownish gray. When you're raising these chickens for these kind of feathers, they're not vibrant, they're not brightly colored, as you'll see in a moment, and the whys and wherefores. A rather dull, subtle, natural color depicting, in part, aquatic life that fly tyers wish to mimic for anglers, for fishermen, for fisherwomen. The product that feather farms are primarily concerned with must meet specific color, shape, and size requirements, at which point the feathers are graded for their quality. Again, brownish gray is hardly a vibrant color. Hence, the word pretty for pretty flowers does not work either. What to do? Now that you're aware of this dilemma, this problem, let's look for better word choices, reworking the sentence to say what we mean it to say. In a world where the attractive teenager saw death daily, Heather worshipped Charlie as her hero, watching the old man raise his chickens for the birds' exotic feathers, not food, like a grower who cultivates unusual flowers. Had I not done extensive research concerning Hackle feather farms, which is anything but a cottage industry, but rather a lucrative business that sells to fly fishing shops, professional fly tyers, as well as fly fishermen around the globe, I might not have realized this. The point of this is that you have to know what you're writing about. Write what you truly understand, and if you don't know, research the hell out of it until you do. Part of your job is to build, and you'll hear me use this word often, verisimilitude, multisyllabic word, build credibility, build believability into your writing. Well, we're finally there, having cultivated a single seed of thought. Charlie was Karen's hero into a full-grown, pun intended, sentence. Here it is. In a world where the attractive teenager saw death daily, Heather worshipped Charlie as her hero, watching the old man raise his chickens for the bird's exotic feathers, not food, like a grower who cultivates unusual flowers. Later, concerning my female character's eating habits, I'll probably paint Heather as a vegetarian. That would work well, right? Are you beginning to get the picture of the work that goes into carefully crafted writing? Of course, not every sentence has to be labored over as we have done here. Just those where it's important to paint a very clear picture of what you are trying to convey. If you have absorbed these lessons thus far, you are on your way to writing well. This is not to say that some of you haven't already arrived. Now, in putting together this sentence here, I had the advantage, we have the advantage actually, Don and I, we fish, we fly fish, I tie flies. Donna's learning to tie flies. She showed an interest in this now that we have a little bit more time. Donna, as a matter of fact, you tied a couple. Very, very nice. See, I knew something about feathers. I knew something about these feather farms, if you will. So I knew when I was talking about vibrant colors that it really wouldn't work. It wasn't careful writing, but just as a lesson, I wanted to show you that you have to know what you're talking about. Again, research, research, research. And I think we'll just conclude with a paragraph here, part of lesson 4. Just for giggles, not necessary to tickle your fancy, check out Whiting Farms, Inc., or Metz, M-E-T-Z feathers on the internet. Whiting is W-H-I-T-I-N-G. Whiting Farms or Metz feathers on the internet. You'll be educated and entertained. Good writing incorporates continued research. You never stop learning. So, I took probably one of the harder lessons, if not the hardest lesson in there. So imagine if you were following me, if you had the patience to follow me through this sentence worked over and over again for clarity and to eradicate confusion, well, you're going to have an easy time of getting through these other 11 lessons. And I'd like you to really do that. I'd love to see you write. In a classroom of 31, 32 students, I will brag and say I turned 1 or 2 students on to publishing and having gotten paid, which is just wonderful.
That's an ego booster, isn't it?
It is. It is. So let's see what we can do here. Donna, let's see. I'll preface with I've written at this point well over 300 articles on the criminal justice system, on fishing, on hunting, on writing. So why don't you pull one of the, as a matter of fact, bring over the whole thing so they get a picture here. I'm going to move these out of the way. Facing the camera, okay. Let's see.
It's this one then.
Okay, we're starting with one of the
Well, we can,
heavier ones, but that's okay. This is,
maybe we can tilt it a little bit
Yeah.
here.
okay,
This, Bob wrote this article for Hannah Howe, the magazine for Hawaiian Airlines. And we had the privilege of spending a couple of summers with Frank Mundus, the famous Montauk shark fisherman, here in Riverhead when he was here touting his book at Atlantis. And Bob queried the editor of Hannah Howe, who happened to be a Long Islander, and he moved to Hawaii, which was really very interesting. And he wasn't so much interested in a story about Frank Mundus, but he wanted a spin. And he said, how about let's talk about The Fisherman's Wife? And that is the title of the
so here is a
article.
picture of Frank and his wife, Jenny. Frank has subsequently passed away. That's a horrible story. But backing up, okay, it wasn't Hannah, it was another one. Okay, we did another one on Mundus, but I'll just hold this up, what I received. Now, I'm sure I'm going to try to seduce you with some nice payments here. Not every payment was like this. This one was for, will this pick up on a camera here, Donna?
I don't know.
Okay.
You're going to have to believe it.
It's $737.60.
That's
okay?
a nice.
That was a nice
down
one.
a little
That
bit,
was a nice
yeah.
one. I've gotten other checks a little bit more, a little bit less. Most of my checks, to be quite candid, are $150 for an article, $200 an article. Once in a while, I'll get $400, $500, $600, $700.
There's another one in here that's
Oh, and
wrong.
there's, okay, as a matter of fact.
Here's another one
Yeah.
on Frank, really. That was written for Big Game Fishing Journal, a magazine, national magazine published in New
Let
Jersey.
me back up because there's a lesson that I don't want to pass up. You can
Okay.
hold that. When I wrote to, this is interesting. When I queried several magazines that I write for and others who I thought, oh, they're going to take Frank Mundus, Frank, world famous shark fisher. And, you either love Frank or you hate Frank. There's like no in between. And a lot of people weren't interested in Frank Mundus because he was a character in this heyday. He calmed down with old age, but that didn't mean too much at that point. So I wrote with Hannah Howe. Oh, no, because I wasn't getting anywhere, so I went to Jenny. And I said, do you have any idea for me? I said, they're not taking Frank Mundus, they're not taking your husband. So she said, try Hannah Howe. For
The magazine for Hawaiian Airlines.
For Hawaiian Airlines. So I wrote to the gentleman, and he immediately wrote back and he says, we don't take anything unless it really has to do, with Hawaii. Now, I said, the man did not read my query because Frank Mundus and his wife, which I made clear, live in Hawaii. I could have let it go, say the guy's a jerk or something. It wasn't the case. They get so busy. I wrote him back and I said, listen, Bob, I explained the wife. I said, Frank and his wife, they live in Hawaii. Oh, he wrote back immediately. I am so sorry, I read carelessly or I didn't read it, blah, blah, blah. See, so don't give up. That's the point of my lesson here.
Yes.
And when this isn't working, I went to Jenny and I said, do you have any ideas? And Hannah Howe, I never thought of doing that. I don't think I even knew how to have
No, I mean, we've never rode
So-
on Hawaiian, we don't fly, so we don't go on Hawaiian
So
Airlines, needless to
that's
say.
that. You want to grab another one?
Well,
or
there's
we have
another one
Oh,
I
yeah.
think posted
Okay.
here. This is also has to do with Frank for, as I said before, Big Game Fishing Journal out of New Jersey. And it was a story about him, and the cover here, you see him with the yellow shirt. He wrote 50 Years a Hooker. It's one of his books, very entertaining.
50 Years a Hooker.
Very entertaining book.
Nice play on
Very entertaining
words
book.
there. If you've seen our other segments, when I wrote the novel, let's see, was it Battered? Yeah. The editor of this magazine, we got to know one another down the pike, and he had asked me to write a novel on this woman. This is, I'm not going to go into this now, but this was covered in one of our segments. A woman who unquestionably, unequivocally shot her husband. Dead. And he was an abusive husband. Guy was really bad news, but it's a fascinating story.
Fascinating story.
And
So anyway,
and-
you want to tell the folks what you got paid for that article?
yeah.
That was, I
Let's
think,
see.
a 2,000 word article or something
Yeah,
like that?
2,000 word article. So that was $400.
Yeah, maybe you can see
Okay.
that, yeah.
And then there's
So
another one
it's, you
here.
know, I mean, it's a lot of work, but if you love to write and you want to share information, that's another thing. You want me to get another one?
Is there, yeah, get another one,
Okay,
if you will.
just put them on top of there.
Yeah, we'll just put them on. Let me help you with this.
Okay. Now this one, is for deer and
Deer hunting.
Deer and deer
okay?
hunting is another
You
sports,
take your interests, you
sportsman.
take your hobbies, you write about it. You can write about gardening. You can write about fixing your car. It's endless. Whatever your interest is, you can write an article on it. You'll know what you're talking about if this is, you know, of great interest to you.
And what happened with this one? Do we know? Let's see.
Yeah, that's
Robert Banfelder.
that was another
The fourth.
another $400 one. See, I'm showing it to prove positive. you know,
positive.
that's- But again, in all candor, most of them are $150, $200.
Yeah.
Some of them 100. You know.
But
that-
point
that-
being, you can take your passion and you can write about it and share. Women who are interested in cooking, there are plenty of cooking magazines, cuisine magazines, and that's a very, very, very popular topic. And you know, if you have a spin on something, go for it, But you need to know how to write well. You want to do the last one here? Do you want me to get?
There is
I'll
another
get
one, yeah.
You
Do
can-
one
you can
more
stay. I can
to
get it.
reinforce this.
Okay, this one.
All my books are available as an ebook. So if you don't want to, you know, get the paperback,
That's not an
I'm
ebook.
just getting there.
Okay, I just want to make sure you're getting it right.
All of them are ebooks except for this one. And there's a good reason for it. I'll just tell you, you could articulate on it. This is color coded, and because of the color,
It's because not only the color, but the positioning of the words in color would be impossible to do as an ebook, and it wouldn't come out well on your devices that you watch videos, that you read from, your Kindle or your phone or whatever.
so the price of this book is
$29.99 on Amazon.
$29.99, and this will be the best $30
It's an investment.
that you
It's an investment
that
for
you've
you.
ever spent in this arena. That's a promise.
Okay, and here's another one.
You can hire a tutor, and I do tutoring also. This is a very inexpensive tutor. This is me being there with you in your room, if you will.
Okay. Here's another one that you did on a Shimano Lucanus lures.
Oh,
on
this is
on their-
amazing.
on their
amazing
jigging
stuff.
system.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
interesting jigging system that Shimano has. You wrote the article. It's usually 1,500 to.
Oh, yeah, now you'll have to trust me on this.
Trust
We
me on
lost, we lost the
Stub, the
The
pay
stub.
stub, yeah.
Big Game Fishing Journal Canis article, payment of $350, January 28, 2011. This was an interesting article in that Donna and I would get on, we have our own boat, but we would go occasionally on charters. We were invited here, invited there. I'd do a story, I'd give them ink, they'd give us a free trip, or, you know, I'd always chip in for gas a little bit. Don't want to, you know, take something for nothing. Where am I going with? Okay, so we get on one of these boats, and the fellas and some gal, they're laughing at us because we had these little skinny poles, and
yeah.
a very, very small reel that would tackle any of the tackle that they had. And the lure was the magic along with the system, the Lucanus system. And we caught big fish where they were catching fish, you know, we caught bigger fish. And here's the one I have to brag about Donna. She catches virtually, she catches the first, the most, and the biggest. They love her or hate her, just like Frank Lundis.
Okay, that's
Okay, so that's that. Let's see what I haven't covered here. You got a pencil there, Donna?
No.
No. Okay.
Oh, here you go. There you go.
Okay. I need a pointer. Okay. So. Okay. Okay, I think we got. I talked about the Random House Guide to Writing. So that came out 1986, and that's actually before that. This is when I said I'm going to start putting a book together, which took me 31 years putting together this guidebook, giving you the best of the best. There's another great composition for, let's say, high school level going into freshman, college, Steps in Composition. That was a very good book. The Random House Guide to Writing, Steps in Composition, excellent books that I learned from, but I took the best of maybe 30. And of course, there were lessons that I learned myself. I can say this better. It's clear, but it's not clear in this textbook, but I can make it oh so much clearer. And that's part of the magic too. Now, besides these checks that I've shown you, there's something better than money, okay? Where does it say that, Donna? Making decent dollars writing plus little known reward reaping benefits. And I'm not going to tell you because I want you to buy the book, okay? You'll get nice, you'll get, you know, you're not going to become rich, not going to break,
yes, don't quit your day job.
Don't
but
quit your day.
But it's a nice hobby, and if you enjoy writing and you want to write, and you want to write well, The Essential Guide to Writing Well and Getting Published is the book for you.
Right.
On Amazon, $29.99 is the best investment you're going to
I
make.
said that.
Well, I want to reinforce it. It's the truth.
Okay, let's see, is there anything that...
I think you covered
Okay, I'm
everything.
very proud of this. I can say some, but I do want you to see it. This was
I'll hold it
2017.
for you.
This is the my award, and I'm very proud of this. This is
Yes.
from Who's Who in America. It's a Lifetime Achievement Award. I have another one for that. That's a point that I wanted to make here.
This one is for your fiction and nonfiction.
for
for everything.
everything
This
up
was
to
given to him
2017.
In 2017.
Lifetime, who's in, I got, that was 2017. I got a Outstanding Achievement Award
In 2005.
in 2005.
From them as well.
I have other, it's, you know, I don't want to belabor this, it's like showing off, but I just want to show you that I do have these credentials, and it helps sell what I write. Okay, and when you had mentioned the word hobby, oh, it's a good hobby, right? You could turn it into more than a hobby. No promises yet, but we're talking, they're talking, there's some people out there talking about making one or two of these books into movies. So from my mouth to God's ears, you know.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
Or if you're considering writing a blog of your own, because people who have
Good point,
established
yeah.
blogs do make money eventually once they get established, as I said, and you have to be a good writer. People are not going to bother reading you if you're redundant, if you're repetitive, if your grammar is not clear, your punctuation is not clear, and you need to do that well.
On punctuation. Punctuation is a piece of cake in this sense. Everything's easy once you know how. I take these lessons, they're so clear. You will be confident of why Bill hit the ball and ran to first base. Where does the comma go? It doesn't. Bill hit the ball and he ran to first base. Where does the comma go? It goes before the and. We don't have to get into these fancy terms that'll drag you down. I make it clear. I give you the lingo, but you don't need it. You will be able to execute. You will have complete confidence on how to use the semicolon, the comma, so on and so forth. Okay. I think we did it all, Donna.
Okay. All right, folks. Well, I have to wish you happy writing, successful writing. And if you like the video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, Special Interest with Bob and Donna. And we'll see what we'll be getting into next time. Hopefully we'll be outdoors instead of sitting inside. We're in the middle of March here and it's raining outside. So until next time, folks, thank you for watching Special Interest with Bob and Donna.